Hey everybody, this is Vinny Ja with Oblation Comics, and today I want to talk about something that's I don't know, really fun to talk about. It's what everyone seems to be talking about right now, and that is what makes good art as opposed to bad art. And with the rise of AI art, this is a topic that is on the forefront of everybody in this space, and I kind of want to throw my hat in there, give my 2 cents, and maybe I don't know, add to the conversation a little bit. So strap in, we're gonna have some fun and talk about what makes good art. So, in my estimation, there are three things that will indicate if art is good or not. The first thing is technicality. Is the art good on a technical level? The second thing, and I'll explain what that means in a little bit, but the second thing is, does it have legs? Is it going to be around for my great grandkids? The significance. Is this significant? We'll talk more about that in a little bit too. The last thing that I don't think anyone talks about, and I think is probably the most important of what makes good art, is what does this art do to the person that's consuming it? Right? What is this art? How does this affect me when I look upon it, or when I take it in, when I listen to it, when I feed on it? What is it doing to me? Excuse me. So let's dive in to the first aspect of how to judge art from whether being good or bad. So the technical level. This is something that I think everyone just intuitively knows, right? When they look at something, was this well crafted? And you can look at any kind of artistry, whether it be craftsmanship on a wooden table, whether it be a movie, whether it be a painting, whether it be a comic book. This is kind of my wheelhouse. I love comic books, grew up with comic books. I'm writing a comic book. And so I'll stick with that because I think I can talk a little bit more about comic books than I can about a wood table. But let's talk about a comic book. What makes a good comic book on a technical level? Well, a comic book is made of a lot of different aspects. You have, obviously, you have the writing. We'll talk about that. The story, the plotting, the pacing, the characters, the dialogue. All those things combined, well, I'll just consider writing. That can all be done well on a technical level, right? Is the pacing, is there any points in the story in which people just drop out? Like, too slow, right? If it's a superhero book, you want action to follow action. Like, there has to be good pacing. If it gets too slow, if it's too dry, people drop out, right? Dialogue, does it make sense? Do the characters have their own voices, or is it all just the same voice? Is it all just the writer getting his thoughts out, using these characters to do so? You could do that well. You could do, like, does Batman sound like Superman? Are they vice versa? Why is it that Batman would say this or not say this, and Superman would? Right? All those things are about dialogue. It's about writing, and you could do that well on a technical level. Now, the actual art is the figures drawn in proportion, right? Or if they're not in proportion, is it dynamic, right? Because not all superheroes are drawn in perfect proportion, because you have these dynamic poses and you have all this action stuff. Is that drawn accurately? Is it drawn well? The colors, the inking, the pencils, all of that. Is the dialogue on the panel matching what's happening in the panel with the art? Like, are they telling two different stories, or is it unified? Right? All of that stuff goes into crafting, and it's all on a technical level. You could all do these things well or not, and you can judge it based on how well you do them or not. If you're watching a movie, you have acting, right? Are they believable? Is the dialogue, does what this character is saying in this moment make sense? Is this how a normal person would be acting, or how this person would be talking in this situation, right? Is it believable? Right? Is the cinematography shot well? Is the lighting, the score, right? Is it moving? Right? Does it move you into the emotion that it wants you to feel? So all these things could be judged on a technical level, and that's what most channels who review. Sorry. It's late. Most channels who review movies or talk about movies or shows or whatever, they review them on a technical level, or they should at least. So, all that aside, that's just the baseline of what makes good art. That's not even the most important thing. in my opinion. And it is important, but there's other things that are equally as important that don't get talked about. That's what I mean. Not that technical level, you don't want a technically bad comic, but these other two aspects, I don't think many people talk about them, which makes them more important. Um, the second thing, the second aspect of what makes good art is the significance. Is this significant? And I'm not talking about artificial significance, right? The thing with significance is that our generation, or whatever the generation this art is produced in, doesn't have a say. Like, it doesn't get to say what's significant for the next generation or not, right? The next generation has to. So there's artificial significance that people will throw on, like, oh, this is going to be a significant book because it talks about this modern day problem. Time will tell. Who knows? It might be. We don't know. We don't get to say. But what we can do is look back and say, hey, this passed the test of time, right? If you read Moby Dick, Moby Dick is still being printed. It's still widely accessible. The book was written it's 1800s, I think, a while ago, and it's still being printed, still widely accessible. Shakespeare, right? Plays are still being done today. Like, if you ever go to Broadway or whatever, there's plays of Shakespeare that are still being done today. It's still being taught in school. These pass the test of time. Now with comic books, this is a newer medium. But if you look at like Batman Year One, that's still being printed, right? So it's a newer medium in relation to like books, right, movies even. But there's still relatively old books that are still being printed because they have significance to them, right? They're done well, they're crafted well, but there's a significance to those books that span the test of time. So my great grandkids could very well still be reading Batman Year One. I don't know if it's around that long. But yeah, so that's something to think about when you're considering good art. Now, the one caveat is, I mentioned this before, but artificial significance, especially with the rise of digital formats, streaming services, and all kinds of stuff. You could watch a movie, for example, like Braveheart, which is a classic movie. And I don't think anyone could debate it. You could say you like it or not, but it's a classic movie. It's been around. But you can watch that movie, and then right when that's over with any kind of streaming service, like, it will suggest something else, right? And that other thing that suggests could be something like, like Barbie or something, the Barbie movie. One has cultural impact, classic. The other doesn't, right? Nobody's really going to watch Braveheart. Everyone's going to watch Barbie. Just kidding. Yeah, but one of them is more significant together, right? Braveheart is a classic film, freedom, right? They're virtues that we, especially as Americans, hold true for America, even though this wasn't about America. But there are things that make it for our culture. And, not everything has that, right? So that kind of outlasts the generation that it was made in. But anyway, all I have to say is that there could be artificial pushing of things that probably should have died. I know Barbie movie is still relatively new. I don't think anyone's talking about it anymore, and I don't think anyone's going to talk about it in years to come. It's over and it's done with our generation, at least as far as I can tell. Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, so anyway, there are things that can artificially boost. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the only reason why it's out for my kids when they're older, or my great grandkids, is if just technology doesn't let it die, right? It hooks it up to the IVs, and it's just like, you will live, you will live, you will live. But significance, I think, is an important aspect of what makes good art. Which brings us to the last and not least point or category of what I think makes good art, and that is what does it do to the consumer? When I gaze upon this art, when I take this in, when I listen to it, when I enjoy it, what does it do to me? I think art is a lot like food, and whatever we take into our bodies has an effect on us, whether we see it or not, or realize it or not. If we eat nothing but fast food, that will ultimately kill us, right? We'll get obese, we'll die at some point, if that's all we eat. whereas we eat healthy, that also has an effect on our bodies, and that will make us feel better and live longer. So similar with art, art is like food for your soul. It actually does affect and shape you and mold you into something. And nobody talks about this, nobody realizes this, but it's so significant. That's actually what art is meant to do, is actually create something within you, to build something, and to sway someone, to be something, right? That is actually what art is designed to do. And you could either go higher, have good art, even if it's tragedy. And I'm saying everything has to be happy-go-lucky or anything like that. But even tragedy can uplift you, right? It could make you reflect on your own choices, make you think, make you be a warning. Like, I don't want to go down that path. I'd rather go down this path, right? And that is something that elevates you and lifts you up. If you think of like Crime and Punishment, Dostoevsky, if you ever read that, right, that's a tragedy, Shakespeare tragedy, like Macbeth. And when I say tragedy, just an aside, it doesn't mean like sad. That's not what tragedy means. Tragedy is when you have a character that makes a bad decision, which leads him down to a path where the only decision that he has left is another bad decision, right? There's no way out. You've dug a hole so deep that you can't get out. So what I'm saying is that good art causes you to think about higher things. Think about your own motives, your own choices. It challenges you. It causes you to reflect. It lifts you up. Whereas if you only consume bad art, it actually doesn't cause you to think at all. It's what we call brain rot, if you've been around the internet at all. It's this brain rot that you just consume, and you become that. You actually become what you consume. And so you could either become a more thoughtful person, a better person that challenges yourself with good art, good music, good movies, good comics, whatever, or it could cause you to just shut off your thinking process at all, entirely. You become filled with things that are not true, things that are not good, or things that are not beautiful, and you come to love those things and crave those things, just like an addict with fast food, right? If you have a choice between a 5-star chef meal from like an expert chef versus McDonald's, a lot of people choose McDonald's because they're addicted to it. And if they choose the 5-star meal from, Gordon Ramsay or whatever, they'd be the ones to say it was okay, because they're so used to consuming garbage that they've grown accustomed to that. And the same thing is with art. You can actually grow accustomed to trash and actually become that. So what you're consuming actually does matter a lot, and good art will always lift you up, focused on things that are true, good, and beautiful, even if they're tragic, whereas bad art will actually not make you think at all. So with all that being said, AI art, where does that line up with all of this? Well, what AI art is, if you didn't know this already, is you put in a prompt, and whatever that prompt is, the artificial intelligence, the AI or whatever, will scour the internet and pull images based off that prompt off the internet and kind of create something from that prompt or whatever. So it's hard to talk about because we're using words that aren't quite true. When we say artificial intelligence, it's not really intelligence, right? It's based off of algorithms. It's based off of that people are making, right? And it's not creating anything. It's actually pulling things from what other people have created and taking it and mashing things together to make something quote unquote new. It can't create something new. It just pulls from what other people created to make an image that is a mix of what other people created. So with that being said, will AI art ever outlive or outdo or supplant real artists? The answer is no, and I don't think it can, because what real art does is comes from outside of you, right? You are inspired, like the ancient Greeks had an idea of the muses, right? These are gods that were the gods of art. And you had a muse for tragic poetry, you had a muse for comedy, you had a muse for every craftsmanship, every form of art there was a muse for. And the idea is the artist would be struck by the muse and inspired and was able to create this beautiful piece because they were inspired by something greater than themselves. With AI art, it's interesting because AI art can be considered an artificial muse, right? A muse in our own making. And we pervert it because instead of being struck by the muse, we go to the artificial muse and make demands on it. Say, okay, I want you to make, whatever prompt out for me. And what it does is it doesn't create a new thing. It takes from other people's things that perhaps were inspired, takes that and lessens it, right? It doesn't make something new. There's no inspiration. It just takes other inspirations and makes something less than. That's why AI art, when you look at it, there's always something off. There's always like, I mean, it looks cool. I guess it looks good on a technical level, but something about it is just generic. Something about it just doesn't. Something's off. It's that thing I'm talking about. There's no inspiration. It's an artificial muse that we go to make demands of. That's not how inspiration works, right? Inspiration comes from outside of us, falls upon us, and then we create something based off of that. At least that's my opinion. That's what I believe. So, will AI art take over? I don't think so. I think it could be helpful in some regards. I have nothing against it on a personal level, but I think that true art is inspiration from something outside of us. And I think that the only way that it could be all three of those things, it could be technically good, it could be significant, and it can lift you up, make you a better person, is only if it's through inspiration from something outside of yourself. So anyway, that's my take on what makes good art. Hope you liked this video, and if you did, like and subscribe, leave a comment. What's your opinions? What did I get wrong? Let me know in the comment section. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. But before we go, I just wanted to introduce you to my own campaign. I'm writing my own comic book. It's called The Arbiter. If you're interested, there's a promo video coming right after this, and the link for the campaign is in the description below. Thank you, guys.
Darkness creeping like a shadow, demons crawling from the gallows, spirits wander through the meadows. There's no light in sight. Hear the battle and the distant screams of war. Oh, can you listen? Heavy chains, they are a prison. Are you free or enslaved to the fight? Are you a lover or are you a liar? Are you a sinner or are you a fighter? Are you the hunted or are you the hunter? Are you a demon or are you a savior? Find yourself, don't be afraid, there's a light beyond the flames. Angels, they are calling your name as you run into the fight. Rise from